So this coverlet structure is a little bit misunderstood. This is true summer and winter, called that because it is reversible, but not to be confused with a free plain double cloth coverlet. This coverlet's weave structure gives us an area of blue that isn't really solid blue and an area of white that really isn't solid white. And I usually refer to this as either brickwork or cantaloupe skin, because that's what it reminds me of, a good way to recognize it. But this requires more work and more setup and more harnesses on the loom than the float work coverlets require. And so it falls somewhere between the ability of a home weaver who's really, really good at what they do and understands weaving, and the fancy weaver who's really capable of doing this kind of work. This weave structure is in the realm of the fancy weaver only. This is free plain double cloth. It's a geometric free plain double cloth, meaning we're still using harnesses or shafts on our loom to create this block design. It is truly reversible. Let's just look at the other side a little bit. Truly a reversible coverlet. And the areas that are the blocks allow us to separate a top and bottom layer or make pockets. And then as I change blocks, those blocks, the top cloth becomes the bottom cloth becomes the top cloth, but the weave structure is entirely plain weave, just like a bed sheet. So this requires many shafts on my loom, and it is only in the realm of the fancy weaver. Fancy weavers were men, not women. These often have borders and corner blocks, and in this case, we're using multiple colors in the warp and multiple colors in our filling or weft. The next place to look for coverlet weave structures is figured free plain double cloth. So this was done on some sort of figuring device. It was not a jacquard head. It may have been an ingrained carpet head, but this figuring device, we will never know. We'll never know what figuring device was actually used to create this particular coverlet, but it wasn't done in the home. It was done by a fancy weaver who had an attachment on his loom that could allow him to do figures or pattern work. And this is a tied double cloth, so the weave structure is a little bit different. I can't pull pockets, but it is truly reversible. So the top cloth and the bottom cloth do change places, but I don't have the ability to separate the top cloth and the bottom cloth. So that's a way to recognize tied double cloth as opposed to free plain double cloth. So that gives you a good idea of some of the weave structures. This one is a little bit different, and we only see this again occasionally. This is twill block work, meaning that my design is made by building up my pattern blocks, having a twill going in a warp direction and then in a filling direction next to it to create the contrast or to create the different pattern. This one happens to be in multiple colors, but it's a pretty common style in Pennsylvania and in Germanic communities. We don't see very much of it in an Anglo-Scots-Irish community.